So basically, this recording is all about Vampire Diaries and why I like that show. So basically, I was all good. Everything was going well in my life until two girls who were really obsessed with Damon Salvatore told me and recommended me, basically forced me to watch Vampire Diaries. And that was before summer vacation. So once the summer vacation started, I was like, I'm gonna get on with the show because, finishing the volume 1 of season 4 of Stranger Things, it basically left a void of nothingness in my heart, and I was like, what am I gonna do? It was like I was separated from the rest of the world, and I didn't know what to do, whom to talk to or something like that, because I was basically lonely and depressed, and I was so impatient for the volume 2s, so that, because of that, I needed a distraction, and Vampire Diaries fulfilled that purpose. So, Vampire Diaries, let me tell you about the first impression of that show, my first impression of that show. So when I basically saw the wallpaper of Vampire Diaries 2 to 3 years back, I was like, this show is gonna be full of hot, steamy romance with obsession, and the girl would be confused between two brothers, and that would lead to fights, and that would be conspiracy between the two brothers, like who would win, the girl, and they would completely hate themselves for it, and it would obviously create a wall of hatred between the two brothers, and that was my first impression, and that's why I didn't watch it a few years ago, even when I had the chance to. So my second impression of that show, when I watched Twilight, somehow I watched Twilight before the Vampire Diaries, and because at that time I didn't know that Vampire Diaries was far much better than Twilight. But Twilight is not so bad. I like that movie, honestly, and even if you guys give me hate for that, I'm gladly accepting it, because Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart, you gotta agree, they're the best couple in the whole of Hollywood, and I haven't found a better couple than them, except Tom Holland and Zendaya and Zac Efron and Melissa Hudgens. They are basically very nice together, right? So after watching Twilight, I was searching for some vampire related shows, and that was when I found Vampire Diaries, and I found the originals, and one more show that I found was Shadowhunters. Now, I was basically obsessed with vampires, not werewolves, and I still think that Bella should not have gone to Jacob, and she should have remained with Edward. I don't know what this whole conversation was about, but Bella was never attracted to Jacob, and let's face the truth, Edward was her true love. So basically, I was obsessed with vampires after watching Twilight, and I was searching for some vampire shows to watch, and I found the Vampire Diaries. I watched the first scene, and that was something really spooky. The first scene was the killing of people. They were driving at night in a cab and car, and I was like, I am not there for this type of this type of genre. I'm here for romance between vampires and hot, steamy bed makeout, tearing clothes and stuff. That was my main aim. I was aiming for that. So I was like, I'm not really into this kind of show, and I just want everyone to be happy. If there's a confusion between two boys, the girl's life is wrecked and the boy's life is also wrecked. Both the boys, they don't know what to do, and obviously one of the boys, they get the girl, and the other boy remains stranded and abandoned for the rest of his life. Or both the boys could make out with the girl, and she would have two boyfriends then, but then this would make life hell for me, because the protagonist wouldn't be able to be with the guy whom I like between the two brothers. So I was like, this is a lot of, like, there are a lot of complications in the story, and I'm not here for complications. I'm here for simple romance, just romance, true love. And honestly, the last scene in Twilight, which was basically about Edward and Bella and how they would spend the life together forever and ever and ever and ever, that really touched me. And I watched that video over and over and over and over and over. I fell in love with the song 1,000 Years. And irony is that the song, it completely suited with that situation. They had a beautiful daughter and they were finally able to spend their life together. And not to mention the fact that the fight scene in the last movie of Twilight, it was the best action scene I've ever seen. Like, you know, it was Alice. I guess Alice was imagining everything. I don't know what happened, but the action, it was phenomenal. And the name quite sucked, Renesmee or something like that. And that totally sucked. I mean, what the fuck was that? Renesmee, she grew up and then she ultimately found that it was Jacob who was her true love. So Jacob couldn't get the mother, so he got the daughter, and that completely made no sense. And I was like, what the fuck is the writer doing or the directors are doing? Because it's completely unbelievable, unacceptable. I mean, Jacob was a dumbass boy. He was a douchebag. I mean, he knew that Edward and Bella have been dating for a long time now, and it was not like Bella would leave Edward and come with him, because that was not possible. Bella was a vampire, she had a child and something with Sir. He was having that weird hope in himself that Bella would leave everything for him. But little did he know that was never gonna happen. So he should have gone and settled around with some werewolf, you know, found a happy girl with a happy family. And in that way, Bella would have known that he has moved on, and then they would become friends and possibly best friends with their families connecting, and their children could have played together, and it would be a happy ending. But Jacob decided to choose revenge, and he dated her daughter instead. I mean, that totally sucked. Like, I don't know. And I was a teenager when I first watched the movies, and I had just stepped into the world of teenage, and I was dumbstruck or awestruck by Robert Pattinson. I had a huge crush on him, and that is one of the reasons why I like the Twilight movies. But yeah, they were pretty good. Now, talking about Vampire Diaries, the second impression. When I finally started to watch Vampire Diaries, I was like, I gotta watch it. I gotta see how Ian Somerhalder he acts, because he is just so famous among the girls. Like, Damon Salvatore is their savior, is their god, is their everything. I mean, they would give up their life for a fictional character, and I couldn't quite find out why. So I wanted to watch Vampire Diaries. So yeah, I started it. Season 1 went about with absolutely no addictions, but my addictions, they began in season 2, and when Klaus was introduced. I have this weird habit of finding out what's gonna happen, like in the last episode. So I obviously, when a subject is troubling me, you know, so I go to the internet and I find out that what's gonna happen. I was quite confused that did Elena love Stefan or Damon? So I searched for it on the net, and they were ultimately like, you know, spoiler ahead, that Elena would date Damon, and I was not really okay with it, because in season 1 and season 2, Stefan was the ultimate love for Elena, like the epic love. The two were made for each other and they looked cute, not gonna lie. Stefan cared for her and he let her do her own thing. And he didn't, stop her from making her own decisions. And he always encouraged her to do whatever she wanted, not acting as an obstacle in her desire to do something. But Damon was like, my friends were like, Damon Salvatore isn't meant for Elena. No. Damon Salvatore is meant for Elena and he's the true gentleman, But I was like, no, Damon Salvatore isn't meant for Elena. Because in season 1, you gotta agree, Damon Salvatore was a bit evil. Like, he used to kill and slaughter innocent people and suck their blood from their body. And that was too much to handle for me. I was like, why do girls like Damon Salvatore too much? Like, he is an ass. Truly talking about it, his humanity is off and he can do anything. He can even go and kill his brother. That's what I felt like, and I couldn't quite figure out why they like Damon Salvatore so much, so I decided to go further. And I wasn't quite attracted by Caroline. In the beginning of the series, I was like, she's just a toy, she's just a NPC, non-playing character in the whole series, and she wouldn't be, much of a use in the whole series. But turns out she's my favorite character now, and I like what she has become after, being turned into a vampire. Like, her basic intentions remain same, that, just wishing for her friends to tell her everything, then inviting friends to parties and kill them if they don't come. But becoming a vampire, she's much more confident, she's proud of herself, and she is happy what she has become, She doesn't hate herself, and not to mention the fact she's the best at being a vampire. I mean, no one does the job better than Caroline. I mean, we have seen, humanity-less Elena, and we have seen the Ripper, Stefan, and we have seen Damon too. Like, they can't really control their emotions. But Caroline is the best at being a vampire, and that's why I admire her character so much. And I was pretty sure, because she was tortured by Damon at first, and I was like, no, she's not gonna be a main character. And I wasn't really attracted by Bonnie unless it was discovered that she was a witch. I'm so sorry. She was a witch. And Jeremy. I mean, Jeremy was a boy. Quite frankly, I'm saying that Jeremy was a lost cause, he used to take drugs, he used to get high, he used to drink a lot, and he was weirdly attracted to Vicky. I mean, I felt no reason for Jeremy and Vicky to be together. I mean, Tyler was obviously shown bad in the first few episodes, like the way he treated Vicky, but Vicky was not the girl meant for Jeremy. I mean, Vicky was a drug addict, and she had absolutely no plans for her future, whereas Jeremy had a family. He needed to work hard because his parents were not there, and there was no added privilege. Like, he was basically an orphan, but he only had his Aunt Jenna. But I don't get why he loved Vicky, but love is love. I don't stand in the way of love. I didn't even feel bad when Vicky was killed because she always had evil intentions. Even when she came back as a ghost, she wanted to fulfill the task for, a witch, and she was there to kill Elena when the veil was lifted. That time also she was a bitch, and I was like, oh my god, this girl, I'm gonna hate her forever. Then talking about Elena. Now, Elena was giving me Bella vibes, the way she stuttered, the way she hesitated. But I loved her love and compassion for her family. Like, she put her friends in front of her and she didn't want them to die, which is an admirable quality in her character. And obviously she acted as a mentor for her brother. But she was a confused little bitch, She was a confused little bitch. Like, I don't know. She is frail and weak, and I don't know what to say. I'm still figuring out. Talking about Catherine, Catherine was a bitch and she was dragged into hell soon after her death. But let's just say she has the character with the most sass and pizzazz. I mean, you couldn't have a character more stylish or more smart, like more stylish or smarter than Catherine, because she was the best at it. She was best at being beautiful and eluding claws and all of her problems. She was the best at running away. She was really smart, like really smart. I don't know. She was a bitch and she received the result of her karma, but obviously she was the sassiest character I've ever seen. Like, obviously she was the doppelganger of Elena. Nina Dobrev was Catherine and Elena both, but let's just say that Nina Dobrev as Catherine is much better than Nina Dobrev as Elena Gilbert, because that's the truth, Now, talking about Alaric Saltzman. When he was first introduced in the series, he was a kind of secretive person because he used to have these weapons to kill vampires, and I was truly not able to figure out what he was wanting with his life, because he was searching for his wife, and later it was finding out the truth about his wife Isobel, and then really finding out that Isobel is the mother of Elena, and that John Gilbert, her uncle, is her father. I mean, that was the greatest and best plot twist in the Vampire Diaries. I literally loved it. It was so unpredictable. Like, we couldn't have predicted that Isobel would be the mother of Elena and Elena would be adopted. I mean, that was totally a very unpredictable turn that the story took that time. Talking about Matt. I mean, Matt is a lost character. I mean, he loves Vicky and he loves Elena too, but the thing with Caroline and the thing with Elena, I don't really get it. Like, he was not over Elena. He was still in love with Elena when Elena quietly and enjoyingly ignored him. I don't really quite like him with Caroline, and I don't really like the character at all. I mean, he's not required, he's not necessary. He's just a character who is a abandoned character who doesn't have his mother and is bitching about things all the time and crying and making sad faces, and he's a crybaby, to be honest. I don't know what to say. Talking about Aunt Jenna, like, I don't want Aunt Jenna to be killed. Aunt Jenna was an important character, and if she would have been there, things would have been better for Elena and Jeremy. But they completely killed the character, which was a shocking plot twist that the story took. I was like, she's not gonna be killed, but she got killed, and then we never heard from her from the other side too. So she had a very small role in the series, and wish she could have stayed longer. And her and Alaric, they were perfectly well for each other. I mean, I loved Alaric, but the way he was turned into a vampire hunter, and then he was possessed by Silas later, I didn't really quite like that, and that made me hate him. And I hate that fact that I hated him, because he was basically the best character in the whole of the series. I mean, he was the drinking buddy of Damon, and then the way Damon addresses him, and I don't know, there was one scene when Damon was sitting near his grave and he was talking to Alaric, and Alaric was as a ghost and he was replying to the things even though Damon couldn't hear them, and that was the best scene I've ever seen. Let's just say that. Let's just accept the truth today, Alaric Saltzman was the best character who was killed. I mean, I don't know why he was killed. I couldn't really get that. Then talking about Caroline and her relationships. Talking about Klaus. And, when Klaus was first introduced, they built such a, they built such a character of Klaus. Like, he was invincible and, could not be defeated, and he was very strong, you know. And that quite, that hype was worth it. I mean, the way Klaus was, the British accent, oh my god, I would totally die for it, you know. Klaus and Caroline was an unexpected yet a very, we all knew that would happen, but still it was unexpected, you know, Klaus and Caroline. And Tyler and Caroline. I mean, Tyler left Caroline and he took breaks to, you know, take over the Sirborn and stuff. And then he went to the Appalachian Mountains, even when Klaus said that he could come, and then he had this arrogance in him and he left Caroline. He wouldn't reply to Caroline's messages. And that was, I don't know, I just thought that Caroline shouldn't have waited for him. I mean, it was not worth it because Klaus was really in love with her and he would have kept her happy. It was not a dark desire, as like Caroline characterized it, that it was a part of a dark side that she was, you know, attracted to Klaus. I don't think so, because Klaus and Caroline would have been perfect together, but you know, Caroline sees the good in everyone and Klaus sees the bad in everyone, and Klaus has a really bad habit of taking revenge and fighting with others, so that thing could not happen, you know. But I really wish that Klaus and Caroline could have stayed together, stayed best friends, and Caroline could have tried to improve him a little bit. She didn't try as much hard, you know. There were small little snippets of them being together, but I don't think that the director really considered them giving more attention, you know. Tyler was not meant for Caroline. I sensed it way long before, and then he came back as a little bitch boy, bitching about how Caroline slept with Klaus. I don't know, boy, you also got a lady friend over there in the Appalachian Mountains. Haley, did you tell anyone about her? No. So why are you bitching about your girlfriend sleeping with another boy whom she's attracted to, and the boy actually cares for her, when you abandon her and leave her for months at a take? I mean, that made no sense. And I mean, all he cared about was revenge, taking revenge from Klaus for killing his mother, blah 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 blah. And the shocking turn that the story took, that Haley and Klaus, they slept together, and then Haley was pregnant with Klaus's baby. I mean, that was the best thing that happened in the whole series. I mean, I couldn't have expected that a side character, you know, as Haley, whom I would have never expected to have, you know, a huge screen time or receive attention on the series, but she turned out to be the mother of Klaus's child. And I quite loved that storyline. That was a completely different storyline. Talking about Rebecca was very good. Like, she wasn't meant to be an original or a vampire. She should have been human, because she had emotions and she wanted a human life, and at last she admired, or she kind of found the good part inside her, which she had overlooked before, and she started embracing her good personality, and that's what Matt did to her. Matt brought out the good in her, and then everything was fine. And I really love that storyline. You know, talking about Elijah, he's damn hot. But loving Catherine and Katerina Petrova, I really don't like that. I mean, Catherine is a bitch, and I don't get why people love her so much. And I was basically really happy for Elijah when he dumped Catherine himself, because that's what she deserved, bitch. That bitch. And I mean, she made life hell for everyone else. And the storyline of Nadia and Catherine, I mean, that was very, very senseless. I mean, Nadia was obviously Catherine's daughter, but she knew that her mother was a bitch. She killed a lot of innocent people for her own good, because in Catherine's life, there were three things that were important: me, myself, and I. And that's what she focused upon. I mean, no matter what or who came in her way, she just kicked them out of her way in order to save herself. I mean, I know that you are important, but like, still have some affection or compassion for others. Like, she became a human, but then also she had the same traits. And I don't really get why Nadia waited for Catherine. I mean, she knew her mother was a bitch, so she could have had a happy life. I mean, the way she died, that was obviously sad. But the lines that Catherine spoke, that this was not what I wanted for you. You could have spent a happy life in 500 years, loved some boy instead of searching for me. And the problem was that she loved Catherine, and that love didn't stop her from, stopping Catherine to do the bad things. I mean, she let Catherine do the bad things too. I mean, if you truly love someone, you would act as an obstacle in the way of them doing bad things. I mean, you would stop them from doing them because you want them to be good. You want to improve the character of the person you love, and you would do every possible way to improve. You would implement various ways and go in every direction to save them from the bad side. And the best ever scene that I liked in the whole series, and I still do, is Damon giving that nice little dream to Rose. I mean, that was heart-touching. That was heartbreaking, heart-touching. That was a pensive moment, and I just don't know. It was like tears were flooding down my eyes, and I didn't even know that, because Damon, the character that I least expected to do the good things for others, was giving a dream to Rose so she could have a peaceful death, and that was everything that I wished for. And one more thing that I like is Lexi and Stefan's friendship. Lexi is the most amiable and lovable character. I mean, let's agree on that fact, And Anna and Jeremy, no, 0 out of 10. I don't know why she was even there, because I don't know, they loved each other, I knew, but this didn't provide him the excuse to cheat on Bonnie and go with her. Yeah. Overall, the show is good. I mean, so far I'd give it like 8 out of 10, if you ask me, because it's definitely a new concept for me. And just when I think that the supernatural characters would stop coming, but new characters emerge. Like, first I thought they were only vampires, then they introduced werewolves. That is an inevitable part of a series, having vampires. You gotta have werewolves, right? And then they introduced hybrids. I didn't know that there could be a hybrid, but that was quite incredulous for me. But then they introduced witches. I mean, I knew that what witches were, but I basically knew witches in Harry Potter's world. And witches there, they wave their wand to levitate objects, and they just say one word, any spell. But in these witches are using some weird Latin language, to say their spells, and using salt and fire and water or full moon or doppelganger's blood to achieve what they wanna. Then they introduced travelers, and I was quite zoned out. I was like, oh my god, stop introducing new characters, for God's sake. So they introduced travelers, who were basically a faction of witches, but witches had put a curse on travelers so that they could not settle as a herd together in any part of the earth. Otherwise there would be a natural disaster like a fire or earthquake. Then they also introduced originals. The whole concept of originals was quite intriguing and fascinating to me, because I really wanted to figure out how the whole vampire thing was created, how then I finally got to know that it was the originals who were the first vampires and how they became the vampires. The original witch called Esther created them using her magic, and they fed on blood. And when an original dies, their entire bloodline dies, i.e., everyone they have created. And I don't know, that was kind of good. I'd say that was a 10 out of 10 concept. And then they introduced vampire hunters, the 5. I mean, that was kind of extreme for me. I was like, stop. And then I learned, because I have that chull, to know what is going to happen in the story. And I searched about Klaus's daughter, and I found out that she was a tribrid, which means that she was werewolf, she was hybrid, she was a witch too. And that kind of gave me chills. I was like, stop. I mean, are you gonna make everything that you wish to? I don't know. I don't know. Create, matlab, jo man mein aata hai, you create that without even thinking about it twice. And then they introduced a very, very big heart storyline, which was, Amara and Silas. That didn't make any sense. I mean, Ketsia, Amara and Silas, that storyline, the 2000 years ago shit, I was like, what the fuck? How does a person just remain alive for 2000 years if they are stored in a box, turned into stone, and they wake up? They are basically immortal. I thought that couldn't happen. I mean, that's seriously not gonna happen, but that happened. And I just don't know. I mean, and I think this is, oh my god. And then they introduced the Augustine vampires, like the vampires who ate vampires. I mean, that was a pretty shitty storyline, but then there was Enzo, a new character, so there was kind of enthusiasm in me to figure out what was really going on. Otherwise, I wouldn't have watched the episode at all. But yeah, the story is intriguing. It's you get hooked on to the story once you start with Vampire Diaries. And let me remind you, Caroline and Klaus are much better than Caroline and Tyler. That's my own opinion. No need to hate me on that. But yeah, you gotta face the truth one time or the other. And that's it for today. I spoke a lot. I hope you enjoyed me blabbing for about, 33 minutes. Oh my god, that's huge. But still, it was wonderful to present my opinions about the Vampire Diaries. And I know no one would listen to this, but still, thank you all for listening to me. And bye-bye. Adios.